The winds of change, factors driving decolonization. Several interconnected factors contributed to the growing momentum for decolonization after World War II. The war itself, with its immense human and economic cost, exposed the vulnerabilities of European powers and weakened their ability to maintain control over their vast empires. This created an opening for nationalist movements and colonized territories to assert their demands for self-determination. Weakened empires. The two world wars had a profound impact on European powers, leaving them financially drained and militarily exhausted. This weakened their grip on colonies and made it more difficult to suppress independence movements. Nationalist movements. Inspired by ideas of self-determination, democracy, and national liberation, nationalist movements in colonized territories gained strength and popular support. Leaders like Mahatma Gandhi, Kwame Nkrumah, and Ho Chi Minh emerged as charismatic figures who rallied their people against colonial rule. International pressure. The international community, through the organizations like United Nations and the non-aligned movement, increasingly condemned colonialism as a violation of human rights and self-determination. This global pressure, combined with the Cold War rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union, further weakened the legitimacy of colonial rule. The road to independence, diverse paths and strategies. The journey to independence was not uniform across all colonies. It took various forms, ranging from peaceful negotiations to armed struggles, depending on the specific context and the willingness of colonial powers to relinquish control. Negotiated independence. In some cases, colonial powers recognized the inevitability of decolonization and engaged in negotiations with nationalist leaders. This led to the peaceful transfer of power in countries like India, Ghana, and many former British colonies in Africa. Armed struggle. In other cases, colonial powers resisted calls for independence, leading to prolonged and bloody conflicts. The Algerian War of Independence, the Vietnam War, and the Mau Mau uprising in Kenya are examples of armed struggles that ultimately led to the liberation of these nations. The aftermath, a mixed bag of triumphs and challenges. Decolonization brought both victories and setbacks for newly independent nations. It marked the end of foreign domination and the beginning of self-rule, but it also presented a host of new challenges that many were ill-prepared to face. Economic challenges. Many former colonies faced the daunting task of building their own economies after decades of exploitation and dependence on cash crops. This often involved addressing issues of poverty, inequality, and lack of infrastructure. Political instability. The transition to independence was often marked by political instability and turmoil. New governments had to establish their legitimacy, build institutions, and navigate internal conflicts and power struggles. Social divisions. The legacy of colonialism often left deep social divisions along ethnic, religious, and racial lines. These divisions could erupt into violence and instability, hindering the process of nation building and reconciliation. The enduring legacy of decolonization. The impact of decolonization continues to reverberate across the globe. The political map of the world was redrawn, new nations emerged, and the balance of power shifted. However, the legacy of colonialism is far from over. Neocolonialism. In many cases, former colonial powers continue to exert influence over their former colonies through economic and political means. This phenomenon, known as neocolonialism, can manifest in various ways, from unequal trade agreements to political interference. Global inequality. The economic disparities between former colonizers and colonized countries persist. Many former colonies continue to struggle with poverty, underdevelopment, and limited access to global markets, while former colonial powers remain among the wealthiest and most powerful nations in the world. Cultural renaissance and identity. Decolonization also sparked a resurgence of interest in indigenous cultures, languages, and traditions. Many communities sought to reclaim their heritage and forge new identities rooted in their own history and values. The process of decolonization was a complex and often contradictory one, with both positive and negative consequences. It marked a major turning point in world history, but its legacy continues continues to shape the world we live in today, we can gain a deeper appreciation for the complexities of global history and the ongoing struggles for self-determination, equality, and justice. Through understanding this, we must continue to confront the lasting effects of colonialism and work towards a more equitable and just world for all. This includes supporting the self-determination of indigenous peoples, advocating for economic justice and reparations, and promoting intercultural understanding and respect.